Good afternoon, Doc. Good afternoon, classmates. I am Rochelle G. Ligon, and I'm going to report about the Republic Act number 10647, also known as Ladderized Education Act of 2014, Republic Act number 10648 or Scholar ng Bayan Act of 2014, and Republic Act number 10650 or Open Distance Learning Act. Let us first discuss about the Republic Act number 10647. It is an act strengthening the ladderized interface between technical vocational education and training and higher education. Ang act na ito ay para sa mga hindi nakapag-formal schooling o yung mga kumuha ng tech voc course para makakuha ng skills at makapagtrabaho na. Yung mga skills na natutunan nila ay katumbas ng ilang units sa isang subject na pwedeng makredit at makadiretso na sa next level sa kolehiyo. Section 2, Declaration of Policy. It is hereby declared the policy of the state to institutionalize the ladderized interface between technical vocational education and training or TVET and higher education, to open the pathways of opportunities for career and educational progression of students and workers, create a seamless and borderless system of education, empower students and workers to exercise options or to choose when to enter and exit the educational ladder, and provide job platforms at every exit as well as the opportunity to earn income. Section 4. Philippine Qualifications Framework. The PQF has the following objectives. A. Adoption of national standards and levels for outcomes of education. B. Supporting the development and maintenance of pathways and equivalencies which provide access to qualifications and assist people to move easily and readily between the different education and training sectors and between these sectors and the labor market. And C. Alignment with the International Qualifications Framework to support the national and international mobility of workers through increased recognition of the value and comparability of Philippine qualifications. Section 5. Priority Disciplines. As a preliminary approach to the implementation of the ladderized program and to ensure its more focused implementation, the CHED, TESDA, and DepEd, in consultation with the industry, the DOLE, the Department of Agriculture, the Department of Trade and Industry, the Department of Science and Technology, the National Economic and Development Authority, the Professional Regulation Commission, and other related agencies, and consistent with the Philippine Development Plan, are directed to identify priority disciplines and programs for ladderization, taking into account labor market realities. Section 6. Enhancement of the Ladderized Education Program. The CHED, TESDA, and the DepEd, in consultation with the PRC and the industries as applicable, are directed to jointly devise systems, procedures, and mechanisms as well as to issue, amend, and update existing implementing guidelines as necessary for the efficient and effective implementation of the LEP and to ensure that the objectives of the program are met. Section 8. Scholarships, Grants, and Loans. To ensure the effective implementation and greater nationwide impact of the program and its accessibility to the students and workers, the CHED, TESDA, and DepEd shall include in their respective budgets the provision of scholarships, grants, and loans to deserving students and workers availing themselves of the ladderized system of education, in addition to the present scholarship programs being implemented by the CHED and TESDA. Section 10. Academic Freedom. Nothing in this Act shall be construed as restricting the HEI in the exercise of its academic freedom. The HEI shall retain the right to assess the level and standard of previously completed TVET programs by an applicant student in a manner that is transparent and objective, incorporating therein its own admission requirements. Section 11. Appropriations. The amount necessary for the initial implementation of this Act shall be sourced from the current budgets and development funds of the CHED, TESDA, and DepEd. Thereafter, the funds necessary for the continuous implementation of this Act in the ensuing years shall be included in the respective annual appropriations of the CHED, TESDA, and DepEd in the General Appropriations Act. Section 12. Implementing Rules and Regulations. The CHED, TESDA, and DepEd, in consultation with the relevant stakeholders in higher and technical vocational education, shall issue within 60 days after the effectivity of this Act the rules and regulations for the effective implementation of this Act. Section 13. Separability Clause. If any provision of this Act or any part hereof shall be declared unconstitutional or invalid, the other provisions as far as they are separable shall remain in force and effect. Section 14. Repealing Clause. All laws, decrees, orders, rules, and regulations or parts thereof which are inconsistent with the provisions of this Act are hereby repealed, amended, or modified accordingly. Republic Act No. 1064-8 or the Scholar ng Bayan Act of 2014. It is an act providing scholarship grants to top graduates of all public high schools, in state universities and colleges, and appropriating funds therefore. Ito ay para sa bawat top 10 students sa mga public high schools. Pwede na makapagkolehiyo sa mga state colleges and universities ng libre. Sagot ng gobyerno ang kanilang pag-aaral. Malaking tulong ito dahil ayon sa CHED, 3 sa bawat 10 high school graduate lamang ang nakapagkolehiyo dahil sa kahirapan.
Imbis na magtatrabaho po ako, nagkaroon po ako ng pag-asa na mag-aral po ulit. Kaya simula po ngayon sa school ko, gagalingan ko po lalo.
Section 2. Declaration of Policy. It is the declared policy of the state to protect and promote the right of all citizens to quality and accessible education at all levels, and to establish and maintain a financial assistance system that shall be available to deserving students, especially the underprivileged. Section 3. Coverage. The academic scholarships provided under the Scholar ng Bayan program, hereinafter referred to as the program, shall cover all public school students belonging to the top 10 of the graduating class based on the guidelines and criteria set by the Department of Education, who will enroll in SUCs as freshmen provided that they meet the admission requirements of the SUCs where they intend to enroll in. Ang mga public high school na mayroong higit sa 500 graduates ay magkakaroon ng isang additional scholarship slot sa mga SUCs sa bawat 500 nakapagtapos. Section 4. Admission in SUCs. Any public high school student who belongs to the top 10 bracket of the graduating class shall be entitled to the scholarship grant provided under this Act in any SUC of choice upon compliance with the following conditions. Letter A. The student has graduated from any public high school in the country within 2 years prior to the academic year being applied for in the SUC. Letter B. The student has complied with application requirements of the SUC. Letter C. The student's rank is reported by the public high school principal or administrator in a certificate bearing the name of the school and its location, the number of students, the rank of the student applicant in the graduating class, and other relevant information. Letter D. After taking the entrance examination in the chosen SUC, the student has obtained a rating which has been designated by the SUC as the minimum rating for a student to be able to qualify for the scholarship program. Section 5. Limitation in the acceptance of top public high school graduates by SUCs. All SUCs shall provide scholarships to qualified public high school graduates under this Act, provided that the applicants have successfully passed the entrance examination and have complied with the admission requirements of the SUCs. Section 6. Support to the program. The following government agencies or entities shall provide support for the effective implementation of the program. Number 1. Government agencies. These government agencies shall implement the following mandates. Letter A. CHED. Conduct a review of the number of graduating public high school students in each province to ensure that the SUCs therein have the capacity to absorb the scholars ng bayan. Number 2, together with the SUCs develop a system including the appointment of advisors, which shall provide assistance and guidance to the scholars in the determination of the appropriate course and the SUCs which will best suit their aspirations and strengths. And number 3, ensure the SUC's compliance with the law. Letter B, DepEd. Number 1, disseminate information to all public high schools on the implementation of the program and the availability of scholarship slots. Number 2, conduct a census of the number of graduating public high school students in each province for submission to the CHED. 3, identify the top 10 graduates in each public high school as well as the additional top graduates in case the public high school has more than 500 graduates. Number 4, provide timely reminders about the program to all public high schools towards the second half of the school year in order to give the prospective top graduates ample preparation time to apply for the program. Number 5, ensure compliance by all public high schools. Letter C, SUCs. Number 1, provide information to the faculty administrative officials and staff and parents about the program. Number 2, inform the CHED of their capacity to absorb the students applying under the program. Number 3, provide a summer bridge program should the scholar fail to meet the academic admission requirements for his or her preferred course in order to enable the scholar to comply with the minimum academic requirements and or allow the scholar to enroll in another course. Number 4, ensure that full assistance is granted to the scholars to enable them to avail of the program. Local government units or LGUs. LGUs are encouraged to create their own scholarship program. The Department of Labor and Employment or DOLE is encouraged to submit an annual report to the SUCs in the respective province or region containing projections on employment opportunities and job openings. Private higher education institutions or PHEIs. PHEIs are encouraged to create their own version of the program. Section 7, limitations of the program. The scholarship grant provided under this act shall be limited to the full amount of tuition and other school fees for the first year of college. Thereafter, the student beneficiary shall be covered by the regular student financial assistance and scholarship programs of the CHED if qualified, subject to the guidelines that the CHED may provide. Section 8. Reportorial requirements of SUCs. Each SUC shall report annually to the CHED on or before a date set by the Commission. The report shall include the number of students admitted under the program, the courses they are enrolled in, their academic standing, and other relevant information that will help improve the program. The CHED shall also provide Congress a copy of the report. Section 9. Performance Monitoring and Impact Assessment. The program shall be evaluated rigorously by the CHED in terms of its impact on desired results, and its progress towards achieving them shall be monitored regularly. The CHED shall clearly define those results and their target values. Impact evaluation shall be measured against, among others. Letter A. Education outcomes such as enrollment in all SUCs and number of graduates. Letter B. Economic indicators such as income and employment. And letter C. Indicators for contributions to community service and public good. Section 10. Appropriations. The amount necessary to carry out the provisions of this Act shall be included in the budget of the CHED or the concerned SUCs in the Annual General Appropriations Act. Section 11. Implementing Rules and Regulations. The CHED and the DepEd, in consultation with relevant stakeholders in higher education, shall issue within 60 days after the effectivity of this Act the rules and regulations for the effective implementation of this Act. Section 12. Separability Clause. If any part or provision of this Act shall be held unconstitutional or invalid, other provisions thereof which are not affected thereby shall continue to be in full force and effect. Section 13. Repealing Clause. All laws, presidential decrees, executive orders, rules and regulations or parts thereof which are not consistent with this act are hereby repealed, amended, or modified accordingly. Section 14. Effectivity Clause. This act shall take effect 15 days from its publication in the Official Gazette or in at least 2 newspapers of general circulation. My last topic is about the Republic Act No. 10650, or known as the Open Distance Learning Act, an act expanding access to educational services by institutionalizing open distance learning in levels of tertiary education and appropriating funds therefor. Section 2. Declaration of Policy. It is hereby declared the policy of the state to expand and further democratize access to quality tertiary education through the promotion and application of open learning as a philosophy of access to educational services and the use of distance education as an appropriate, efficient, and effective system of delivering quality higher and technical educational services in the country. Section 4. Coverage. This act shall apply to public and private higher education institutions or HEIs and post-secondary schools in the Philippines which have existing ODL programs and to other HEIs and post-secondary schools which shall later be authorized as qualified implementers of ODL programs. Section 5. Institutionalization of Open Distance Learning. ODL is hereby institutionalized in accordance with the provisions of this Act. The ODL program shall conform to the guidelines set by the CHED and the TESDA for both the conventional classroom or traditional mode and the non-conventional mode. Section 6. Guiding Principles for ODL Courses or Subjects. All courses or subjects offered in the ODL mode shall adhere to the following principles. Letter A. Learner-centeredness. ODL program shall focus on the needs of the learner and the goal of facilitating independent learning. Letter B. Quality and relevant programs. ODL programs shall be equivalent in challenges and depth to conventional classrooms or traditional programs in non-conventional delivery. Letter C. Transparency to guide informed choice. ODL implementers shall make information about their programs, particularly on the curriculum and delivery system, instructional materials development, delivery mode strategies, student support services, and other relevant information available to accrediting bodies, academic peers, regulators, and students. Letter D. Peer review. A review by experts in ODL to determine the acceptability of the course or subject shall be institutionalized following the criteria set by the CHED and/or the TESDA as applicable. Letter E. Public responsibility and accountability. Implementers shall need the public impact of ODL programs and shall always exercise due diligence in avoiding harm to program stakeholders, especially students. Letter F. Quality and continuous improvement. An HEI or post-secondary school shall embed in its program framework the proactive needs assessment of students and stakeholders in terms of the ODL program planning, implementation, and evaluation. Section 7. Admission and other academic policies and requirements. Admission and other academic policies and requirements in all HEIs and post-secondary schools offering ODL programs shall conform to the minimum policies, standards, and requirements set by the CHED and/or the TESDA as applicable. Section 8. Program, curriculum, and course development offerings and requirements. The curricular offerings using ODL mode shall ensure that the learning outcomes are clearly articulated in terms of competencies, skills, and behavioral attributes and conform to the respective policies, standards, and guidelines for ODL set by the CHED and/or the TESDA as applicable. The following shall also be considered. Letter A. The place, pace, and mode of study of the student shall be at the option and convenience of the student within the time frame as may be prescribed by the learning institution. Letter B. The concerned HEIs or post-secondary schools shall formulate and implement a mechanism to monitor the academic progress of the student. Letter C. The curricular offerings using ODL shall conform to respective policies, standards, and guidelines for ODL of the CHED and/or the TESDA as applicable. Letter D. Practicum or on-the-job training shall be observed for courses that require the same. Letter E. Completion of all the requirements for the academic program shall be evidenced by the award of the appropriate academic degree or certificate. Letter F. For the practice of the profession for which one has acquired the necessary academic credentials through ODL, the existing requirement of the Professional Regulation Commission or other relevant government agencies of passing a licensure examination for programs offered in the conventional classroom or traditional mode or technical vocational programs shall also apply to graduates of ODL programs. Section 9. Mode of delivery. The ODL programs may be delivered using information and communications technology and other approaches such as the following: print, audiovisual, electronic computer technology and virtual classrooms, and face-to-face sessions. Section 10. Support to ODL programs. The CHED and the TESDA shall provide support to HEIs and post-secondary schools in developing and providing high-quality programs and offerings in ODL education. This support shall include the following: Letter A. Training of qualified teachers, providers, and other professionals. B. Relevant curriculum, courseware, and program development. C. Development of appropriate learning materials. D. Cyber infrastructure planning, resource sourcing, and implementation. Letter E. School operations and management planning and development, including support services, learning management systems, instructional design and development, and research on emerging technologies. And F. Formal linkages and networking with institutions which may serve as learning or testing centers. Section 11. Support to students. Any student enrolled in ODL programs under this Act shall have access to all privileges, opportunities, and entitlements that the student similarly situated under the conventional system of instruction may have. Administered funding sources. Specifically, HEIs and post-secondary schools engaged in ODL programs shall be tasked to perform the following student support services. Letter A. Provide clear admission policies and procedures for applicants. B. Maintain faculty-student dialogue and interactivity through virtual classrooms linked electronically or through established learning centers, or both, whichever may be feasible, to ensure greater knowledge sharing, access to counseling, and other support services. Letter C. Provide for an efficient and reliable communication system, feedback mechanism, especially on learners' academic progress and multimedia support. Letter D. Show evidence of regular monitoring of learners' progress. And letter E. Provide a wide range of relevant, updated, and accessible learning resources that are easily accessible to students. Section 12. Role of the University of the Philippines Open University. The University of the Philippines Open University, hereinafter referred to as an OPOU, shall assist and provide expertise to the CHED and the TESDA in the performance of its functions pursuant to Section 14 of this Act. As such, it shall: A. Provide leadership in the development of ODL in the country and in the appropriate use of information and communication technologies in support of quality tertiary education. B. Promote best practices in ODL in the Philippines. C. Share knowledge through informed and innovative research and other development activities related to ODL through its exemplar policies, programs, materials, learning management systems, guidelines, and offerings. Letter D. Provide technical assistance to the CHED and the TESDA in matters relating to ODL, particularly in the development of basic curricular design and formulation of national policies, standards and guidelines for ODL programs and institutions in the country. Letter E. Design model curricular programs which shall serve as prototype programs upon which similar programs to be offered by other HEIs and post-secondary schools in the country shall be patterned after. Letter F. Develop and promote appropriate information and communications technology to facilitate quality ODL programs in the country. Letter G. Design quality learning materials and objects both in print and multimedia formats for higher education and post-secondary instruction in the country. Letter H. Make instructional materials for ODL programs accessible to the public through collaborative arrangements and other appropriate mechanisms. Letter I. Assist other interest educational institutions in developing their ODL programs, courses, and materials for specific learner groups or the public at large. Letter J. Design and implement a continuing program to develop high-level expertise in the fields of ODL in the Philippines through quality higher education degree programs and technical vocational programs through either or both ODL and face-to-face modes of instruction and training. And letter K. Help capacitate ODL teachers and practitioners through capacity building and professionalization programs. Section 13. Zonal ODL Centers. Zonal ODL Centers shall be established, one each in Metro Manila, Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao, and eventually one in each region to assist the CHED and the TESDA in performing its tasks. The zonal ODL centers shall take charge of the training of teachers for ODL programs. Section 14. Roles of the CHED and the TESDA. The CHED and the TESDA shall be respective regulators of HEIs and post-secondary schools involved in ODL programs. As such, they shall: Letter A. Formulate, promulgate, disseminate, and implement the necessary policies, standards, guidelines, rules, and regulations for the effective implementation of ODL in the country. Letter B. Develop strategies to improve the quality of ODL programs and implement a system of quality control for ODL in the country. Letter C. Monitor and evaluate existing ODL programs and effect the continuation or closure of programs in accordance with the provisions of Republic Act 7722 or the Higher Education Act of 1994, the Manual of Regulations for Private Higher Education or MORPHE, and other issuance of the CHED and or the TESDA as applicable. Letter D. Review and approve or disapprove proposals from HEIs and post-secondary schools for the implementation of new ODL programs. And letter E. Recommend to the Department of Budget and Management the budget for ODL programs of qualified state HEIs and post-secondary schools based on the monitoring and evaluation results of the CHED and the TESDA, respectively. Section 15. Roles of broadcast media and telecommunications networks. Broadcast media and telecommunications networks are encouraged to provide as much assistance and cooperation to HEIs and post-secondary schools offering ODL programs. Such assistance may include, but not necessarily be limited to, the transmission of learning materials for formal and non-formal courses to learners not only within the Philippines but also outside the country. Section 16. Independent Evaluation. In aid of better policy making, the CHED and the TESDA shall enter into an agreement with reputable research institutions to conduct an independent evaluation of the state regulatory governance quality. Section 17. Interim and Final Report. The agreement under Section 16 of this Act shall require that the reputable research institutions submit to the CHED Chairperson, the TESDA Director General, the Senate Committee on Education, Culture and the Arts, and the House Committee on Higher and Technical Education the following. Letter A. An interim report regarding the evaluation as provided herein, not later than 6 months after the date of the enactment of this Act. And letter B. A final report regarding such evaluation not later than 1 year after the date of the enactment of this Act. Section 18. Tax exemptions. Any donation, contribution, bequest, and grant in cash, materials, and services which may be made by individuals and organizations, including private entities, which shall provide appropriate materials, time and delivery support services for the promotion of ODL in partnership with HEIs delivering academic degree programs and post-secondary schools delivering technical vocational programs through ODL shall be exempted from the donor's tax, and the same shall be considered as allowable deduction from the gross income in the computation of the income tax of the donor in accordance with the provisions of the National Internal Revenue Code of 1997 as amended. Section 19. Implementing Rules and Regulations. The CHED, through its Technical Panel for Distance Education, the TESDA, and the OPOU, in consultation with relevant stakeholders in higher degree and post-secondary education, are hereby mandated to formulate the rules and regulations to implement this Act within a period of 90 days from the effectivity thereof. Section 20. Appropriations. The amount needed for the initial implementation of this Act shall be charged against the current year's appropriations of the CHED, the TESDA, and the state universities and colleges which have existing ODL programs. Section 21. Separability Clause. If any provision of this Act or any part hereof be declared unconstitutional or invalid, the same shall not affect the validity of the other provisions of this Act. Section 22. Repealing Clause. All laws, decrees, orders, rules, and regulations or parts thereof which are inconsistent with the provisions of this Act are hereby repealed, amended, or modified accordingly. Section 23. Effectivity. This Act shall take effect 15 days after the publication in the Office Gazette or in a newspaper of general circulation.